On the show, we have guest Dr. Darla Bishop, a public health scientist and creator of Piggy Bank Pathways, a financial literacy program for kids and families she developed with help from her 6-year-old daughter. She uses a life course approach to teach money skills, from Madeline's money adventure for little learners to how to afford everything for adults. She helps parents and teachers start simple, effective conversations that build lifelong financial confidence. Get ready for a great episode.
I'm educational justice coach Lindsay Lyons, and here on the Time for Teachership podcast, we learn how to inspire educational innovation for racial and gender justice, design curricula grounded in student voice, and build capacity for shared leadership. I'm a former teacher leader turned instructional coach. I'm striving to live a life full of learning, running, baking, traveling, and parenting because we can be rockstar educators and be full human beings. If you're a principal, assistant superintendent, curriculum director, instructional coach, or teacher who enjoys nerding out about co-created curriculum with students, I made this show for you. Here we go. Dr. Darla Bishop, welcome to the Time for Teachership podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am really excited to dive in. So I have a few things on my mind since I have learned about all of your stuff and you've sent me materials and everything. That's so exciting. I also imagine you have things that you want listeners to know or keep in mind as we kind of go through the general questions. But things on my mind, and I'm going to throw it to you and let us know what's on your mind. Family school partnerships, like how schools and families can work together to help kids, huge. I think I'm really excited to know your ideas there. Also, just healthy ways to talk about money with kids, as well as what exactly do we talk about with the kiddos? I'm so excited we got a guest.
Yeah, and so what's so awesome about schools and parents is they already work together already, right? And the idea that I approach this as a parent who's also been a teacher for little kids and grown-ups is if we put a bit of attention behind it, a bit of intention about how we see our role, how we see the other side's role, and whether or not those things match, and where to make sure we're kind of talking in the same way so that it's easier for us to meet in that middle, where we're all concerned about the same thing anyway, right? We care about raising and having great citizens and them displaying those behaviors now while they're in the school environment, while they're home with their siblings and family, while they're in the community doing, their sports or just out and about living normal life, right? And so since we all have that same goal, that if we just put a bit of intention from all sides, that it will all go smoother and the kids will benefit even more.
I love that. Part of what you're saying actually leads into my next question, so I'm just going to ask it. But Dr. Bettina Love talks about the idea of freedom dreaming with a quote that I admire. She says, "They're dreams grounded in the critique of injustice." And so with that in mind, what is that dream that you hold for education broadly or youth and finances and financial literacy, however you want to interpret that?
Well, there's a couple pieces of that, right? Like part of it is in the school environment, right? Like how do we help kids from all types of situations feel that school is their safe place and that they love it, and that the adults there are there to love them in whatever way that feels right and appropriate, and teach them and guide them and support them, because not everybody has a great home, and so maybe that they're getting some of that from school, which I know is heavy for teachers, but hey, it is what it is, because that's how we've built our society, right? For better or worse. The other part on the money side is the reason I'm so passionate about helping kids learn about money is layered. One, my background in education and public health, we know that whenever we need to change something in the public's health, large scale, writ large, that when we teach kids the behaviors that we want to see in society, they go enforce it with their grown-ups. Perfect example, seatbelts, right? When seatbelt law started to change, state police and other safety organizations went into schools, did safety presentations. Fire safety went into schools, did safety presentations, taught the kids, here's what you need to do every time you get into the car. If someone in the car isn't using their seatbelt, remind them because maybe they don't know. And so that means that the children end up being the carrier of this social change. And so when we teach the babies about money in very simple age and developmentally appropriate ways, a few things happen. One, in case their parents never got these lessons, we're starting at the ground. And so it's okay because now the parent learns the lesson too, right? The other thing that happens is when the child notices how the grown-ups and or older kids in their life are using money, they start asking questions based on what they learned in the school environment. The next thing that happens is just in case there are forces that don't allow the parent, the grown-ups, to get it together, right? They can't ever figure out how to save. They can't ever figure out to work consistently. They can't ever figure out how to just move out of whatever space they're in. Those lessons that those kids get in the classroom end up being protective because once that child grows into a young adult who's then working and earning a little bit of money, even if the parent or the grown up has said, well, now you're working, you need to contribute to the house, they might say, but I remember I'm supposed to save $5, even if it's just $5 from my check for some reason. And then all of a sudden we have a 16, 17, or 18-year-old who maybe has been working an after school job, a weekend job, and they've got a few hundred or even a few thousand dollars saved up because they remember this lesson from when they were a kid, even if the grown-ups in their life were unable to take the action. They were. So then they're starting off their life as an adult, perhaps independent, perhaps not, but with these behaviors that they learned as a kid. And so they can be the grown up who teaches the next generation or the one above them. When I learned about money, when I taught everybody in my life about money, it changed 3 generations of my family. Me and my siblings, because I, of course, put them on a budget as soon as I could. And then the grown ups, because they say, hey, we notice you're doing okay, well, how do you do this? And they kind of ask in their own way for how they could do things differently in a way that still worked for them. And then my kids are super money smart just because they swim in this water where we're talking about money all the time. And so that's where it comes from. And I know that was a long answer, so I'll be quiet because let's talk.
Oh my gosh, my brain is exploding right now. I'm taking furious notes. Wow, where to even go next? I mean, so I just want to kind of like echo back some of the things that are really resonating with me. So this idea of kids being the carriers of social change, like, I just want people to sit with that. That's really good. I also am really excited about the idea of asking questions, like inquiry pedagogy from the teacher lens, also the family lens, like how do we continue conversations over time. I love that it's making me think of your curriculum, K-5 being like, okay, and we grow this over time. We don't start in pre-K with like, here's how to budget for this like thing that you want necessarily, but we're doing like a foundational piece to eventually do that. I think there's, wow, so much that you just said that's literally blowing my mind. But also I am curious to know, like, I have heard so many families who are families of preschoolers, families of maybe elementary kids, particularly say, I literally have a family say to us, we were doing how to talk to kids about social issues. It was, how do I literally say the word money? Like they were like, I have grown up never having been told to talk about money. That was like a taboo subject. I also have been thinking about folks that I know that are like very stressed when it comes to money because families have shared the dynamics of money, but not necessarily in a healthy way. And so I'm curious. I think there's some probably shifting, or like a term I often hear is like the reparenting, right? Like you're like reparenting yourself, you're shifting how you grew up thinking about money. And now we got to do it different. Like for the family members listening to this or engaging with this episode, like what has to happen for that shift, or what's like a mindset that you can help coach us through that needs to happen?
Yeah. And thank you so much for hitting on that. I think part of it is we don't always realize as parents that our voice ends up being that inner monologue for a long time, right? Especially if you're in the stage where you have some older kids, like they're 12 and up, and so they're not listening to you, they're listening to their friends and their peers, but really your voice ends up be that is that inner monologue really probably until early to mid 20s. And so what you say and what you do matters, not to put pressure, but it matters more than you're probably giving yourself credit for. And so one of the things I often say is like, if you're wondering how you're already teaching your kids money lessons, because you are, we're constantly teaching our kids lessons about relationships, about money, about values, about how we treat one another, right? Whether we are explicitly doing it or just living our lives because they are watching, right? That if you are wondering how your kids are picking up the money lessons is for 30 days. Start, say, like, and put in your calendar even. Just make a note in your phone, or if you're a journaling or diary type person, every time you hear your kid say something about money, ask for something that has a cost, a financial cost, or react, just so that you can kind of create a list of the things that you hear your kids say, or even better, that you say to the family, right? And then after a couple weeks, 3 or 4, look at your list. And we are not looking at this with any judgment of ourselves, of anything. We're just simply, this is where we are being anthropologists. We are being NCIS. We are being curious. We are investigating, not making any judgments yet about, so what are the things that we've said out loud to one another about money? And if you look at that list and you're like, cool, that's what I want their inner voice to say, stay exactly there. Keep using those messages. But if you see the list and you're seeing things like, we ain't got money for that, stop asking for stuff, we can't afford it. And if you don't want those to be the main messages rolling around in your child's head, then you got to figure out what to say differently. And I'd like to give this example of being in the store with my child, right? Like, every once in a while, we've got to go to a big box store because we need trash bags and light bulbs. So the way that I set us up for success is I specifically say, this is the purpose for this trip. We are going to this store because we need trash bags and light bulbs. And I recruit the kid to help me remember, quote unquote, that we're here for trash bags and light bulbs. Oh my gosh, what are we here for again? Oh, trash bags and light bulbs. Okay, because they're helping me stay on track, which is great. You give a kid a job and they're going to do that job most of the time, right? The second thing I do is when they notice something that catches their attention, a toy, a dress, a candy, something colorful, I don't, if especially if we're not in a hurry, we don't have somewhere to go, I don't rush them past it. I say, oh, well, let's stop and look at it. Well, what do you like about this dress? Oh, you like the color. Oh, okay. Okay, so I engage them in a 30-second conversation, a 1-minute conversation. And then usually that actually satisfies it because I didn't rush them past the thing. And they got to tell me why they liked it. And we got to spend a little time with the thing, or they got to pick it up, or they got to touch it. That's like 80% of the time enough, and we can move on. Now, for that other 20% of the time where they actually make the ask, Mom, can I have? I say, well, do you remember what we came to the store for? And they say, trash bags and light bulbs. Perfect. Did we get our trash bags and light bulbs? No, not yet. Okay, well, let's get that first so I can either move them to the main purpose we came to the store, or I can say, well, because we didn't come for the dress or the toy or the candy today, we're not going to get it today. But can you look, tell me what numbers it says on the price tag? And then it makes them look so that they can recognize prices, because that's an important life skill. That's an important skill to have when you send them to the store to pick something up when they're old enough to do that on their own, right? They need to be able to look and identify prices and compare, well, this one costs $2 and this one costs $2, but this one's bigger, so maybe that's the one I want, right? And so, oh, what's that price? Okay, it's $7. Do you think you have $7 in your piggy bank? I don't know. Okay, well, we know that you like it. We know that it costs $7. Now that we have our trash bags and light bulbs, we're going to leave the store. But as soon as we get home, let's check your piggy bank. And if you have the $7, well, the next time I come to this store, or I might even make a special trip and I'll come get that thing for you. Right? And then if they don't have the $7, Well, darn, you only got $5. Well, what could we do to help earn the extra two that you need? Is there some special jobs you could do around the house? Do our neighbors need anything? Do you have any birthdays or special occasions coming up where granny or this other person in our life usually gives you a small gift? My son, when he goes to the barber shop, the barber is so nice and usually will tell him, if you sweep the floor, you can have $2. So my son will say, can we go to the barber shop? Because he knows he can get the $2 he needs there, right? And I know I explained this in a long way, but that little interaction of, well, how much does it cost? Okay, let's check your piggy bank only took a little bit longer than no, put it back, stop asking for stuff, and develops a much richer, friendlier in relationship with money.
Wow, I'm like taking notes because I'm like, I'm going to do that thing next because I've totally found myself being like, no, we can't, we're not doing that. Stop asking. So this is so good. Oh, wow. And I also just love how much, like, there is so much you're teaching in that conversation. I mean, I imagine I'm already thinking like two conversations ahead too, to like, okay, maybe we buy the thing for $7 and then the next time we're at the store and we identify this other thing and now we don't have any money in the piggy bank, right? Like what a wonderful opportunity to now engage like, well, because you made a choice, right? Like, and we, oh my gosh, there's so much potential and for a continuing conversation about
For a
this.
continuing conversation, right? Because we're teaching our kids about money every single day. And so if we can put a bit of intention about it, then it just opens up a world of possibilities for the kids. And when you don't, and I'm not telling anyone, parents or teachers, that you have to have the answers, but have a few questions ready. Because when you have questions ready, the kid will carry the conversation.
Hi, this is Leah popping in to share the free resource for this episode, Piggy Bank Pathways Activity Hub. Explore a treasure chest of free activities, games, and printables to help kids learn about saving, spending, and sharing. You can find it at the blog post for this episode, www.lindsaybethlyons.com/blog/263. Now back to the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I love, thank you for sending me a little glimpse of like what your curriculum looks like. It's beautiful. And what I really wanted to just say I love is in each lesson, you have like, here's what the task is for the teacher. Here's what the task is for the student. Here's what the task is for the family member. And I just love that those three within the lesson, it is assumed and encouraged and invited that everyone is an equal participant in this. So you have student agency, you have that home family connection or homeschool connection immediately. And I think I just love one that as a mindset of just when we're doing this, here's a prompt I'm going to send home for families, or here's a prompt I might tell families ahead of time. Do you mind sharing some of the ways that might come up in the curriculum or that you've seen be successful with like, I'm doing something as the teacher at school. Here's like a move a teacher can make or an ask a teacher can make of the family to bridge that partnership or to form that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that I've heard from like my credit union and banking partners is they're realizing that kids are not spending much time handling real money. And so when they're doing the math lesson, if you've been an elementary school teacher, you have the math book and it's pictures of the coins. The kids are having a much harder time getting that concept of which coin is which value because they literally haven't handled them, right? And so one of the things I might do, whether I'm the math teacher, the social studies teacher, or the teacher who's been tasked with doing this money workshop, is I'm going to ask the parents, hey, can you specifically find some coins and talk with your child about counting the coins, sorting the coins, identifying the coins, and telling you how much the coins make. Because this is something we're doing in math to teach them multiples. And if you do it in real life where they get to touch it and smell it because pennies smell funny and see which is bigger and which is smaller and which are the same color and which is a different color, then it'll make my work in this math lesson where we're teaching multiples way easier.
I love that. I mean, even just there was an article I was reading the other day, and I said something to my 3-year-old, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're not going to make pennies anymore." And he's like, "What is that even? Like, how is that even a thing?" It's like, "Oh, right, because you don't handle pennies, like you don't handle coins, because everything is on our credit card." So that is so good because I feel like there's so many other things like current event articles like that that could now make meaning because you have handled the physical thing.
Right.
Good. I am curious about also, I'm sure like the audience is curious about like what is a potential trajectory from like a pre-K conversation to like a fifth grade conversation about money. Like, can you give us a couple examples of like what does it look like in fifth grade and then what does it look like several years later to kind of like illustrate how we build over time, whether I'm a teacher or honestly a family member as well?
Yeah, so let's stick with the physical money conversation, right? So in the lower elementary, we're going to be actually handling physical money and showing that the numbers on the paper, the symbols on the coins matter. And that's how you can tell what the value is. And that we use these things, this paper and these coins, to trade them for other things we need or want. So it's really basic, right? And then we also talk about all the different ways we can use these papers and pieces of metal. We can use them to save because we know we want something and we need to take little bits of money over time. We can use it to spend because we are ready to now trade it for something we need or want. We can use it to share or give to others because that's one of the things that's really important to do is when you have is to make a plan to share. And it might be that you shared the money, or it might be that you shared the toy or the food that you bought with the money. But we're also getting in that sharing is caring language, right? Now, the fifth grader, we're going to talk about okay, so you know that all the grown-ups either tap their phone or use this plastic card to use money. So, how do you know how much it's used when it's not the physical paper? So, we're going to be really trying to get them to think about how to keep track when it's not the physical thing, that if they had a stack of dollars, they could see it get smaller, but instead they're just tapping or swiping. So, what are all the different ways they're going to know how much is in the bank, right? So that they can think about what their limit is, what they can spend, what they can't spend, how to get more, what happens when it's too low, right? So we're going to have them problem solve so that they have that reminder from when they were little that there is a physical thing behind the plastic card or the tap. Now, when they are teenagers and maybe um, they are more consistently doing things to trade their time or skills for money, like babysitting or mowing lawns or, working at the ice cream shop or the car wash, right? So, like having them think about, okay, so you know that every time you spend an hour of your life at the car wash, you're getting $10. And if you want to go buy those shoes, it's going to cost you $100. So that means you had to trade 10 hours or a full day plus some extra hours working in order to buy those shoes. Is that still worth it? How long will the shoes last? How are you going to use the shoes? How are you going to take care of them? Because if something breaks, if they get damaged, that means when you go to replace them, because it's really hard to get shoes fixed, at least that kind of shoe. When you go to replace them, you got to do that whole thing all over again. And it might be $110 now instead because they don't have that one. They have the newer model and it just costs a little bit more, right? So then we're still connecting that physical paper and coin from when we caught them in first grade to now trading their time for money and what that really looks like because they had to put their effort or their work or their sweat in order to get the money, in order to trade it for the thing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Two things I'm absolutely loving. One, this idea of like, is it worth it? That to me is coming back to that initial example in the grocery store, right? Like, is it worth it? Yeah, we do have $7 at home in your piggy bank. You've saved for a whole year. You've got it. Is it worth it to give all that there, or do you want that thing for $10 that you've been talking about for the last year and you want to like save up for that, right? Like, I love that framing to just as a parent have in the back of my head to be like, oh right, maybe it's not the literal question I ask my 3-year-old, but like it's there in my mind to guide our conversation. But I also just really want to name that sharing piece. That is so good. I constantly like try to think about how to parent well in all the dimensions, and I keep them separate sometimes. So I'm like, oh, it's a money conversation. Oh, this is a community conversation, how to be a good community member. But actually, they can totally be the same conversation. And I just love that you named that. So thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And part of it too is one of the things that I've recently realized as a parent is I was doing the business of our lives without my kids because it's just faster, right? It's faster to go to the grocery store without the kids. It's faster to run this errand without putting everybody's shoes and socks on. It's like, okay, hey, the other parents here, you're good. Okay, I'm going to run to the store. I'll be back in 25 minutes. You need anything, right? But then I was like, wait, but that's how I learned how to do this stuff with my own parents by being drug around to the post office and the clerk where we had to drop things off or to the grocery store, right? Like, and so if I, for my own convenience, leave the kids out, how will they learn how to do these things in real life? And so I'm going to have to just leave more time to go grocery shopping so they can come along. I'm going to have to leave more time or pick which day we're going to go to the hardware store so they know how to say, excuse me, and how can I find this, or this is what I'm looking for, because those are all interactions we need to know how to do. And if I don't model it for them, if I don't give them a chance to practice this while I'm here to guide the interaction, then how will they know what to do when they are on their own? How will they know what to do when I'm ready to send them to the store instead of me going?
Absolutely. I'm already trying to scaffold toward independence for little things. Like that's a huge one, right? You go get those groceries. I can remember doing that as a kid. I had to go a million times with my dad first.
Yep, exactly.
I am curious. I named a few challenges that were in my brain that I had heard people share. Is there any challenge that you've noticed with families or teachers talking about money that they've kind of come up against? Whether it's like resistance to talking about it all, or like, I talk about it in this way, but like really I should like talk about it in this healthier way. Or yeah, I'm curious to know what your like big ahas are for us so we don't have to like muddle through that ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's because we all, each of us has our own relationship with money, each of us. And even in a married couple, because we came into that marriage with all types of experiences before we became a married couple, that each individual's relationship with money could be totally different than what that couple as a unit's relationship will be with money. And that's why, not to bring everybody down, 40% of marriages that end often say it was because of a financial disagreements, right? And so in the school family child dynamic, the thing that comes up is that we often, I don't want to say all, but we often have not fully examined our relationship with money. So here I am trying to teach it, but I don't even know how I feel about these things. And the other piece too is teachers, while in our society we say teachers, are underpaid and underfunded and have to do so much work. I don't know if you know that statistically speaking, a teacher has a much better chance at retiring as a millionaire than a physician, right? Yeah, statistically speaking, you have much better odds to retire as a millionaire as a teacher than you do as a physician. And think about it, right? Because if you're a teacher, you probably started your career, unless you had to take a different path, right out of college at 22. You only, if you had loans at all, you only had the loans from that 4-year degree, because if you go for more schooling, you usually do that while you're already teaching, and the district will help to subsidize that expense, so that you can continue to, develop as an educator. And then, depending on when you became a teacher, you might have access to a retirement plan where the school district is putting a portion or a percentage of your salary in, again, right at age 22. Or you might even still have a pension. There are a few school districts that still offer pensions. And so you're starting your retirement um, financial situation right at 22. That's great. That's great. And then because you went to a teaching university or and only spent 4 years in school, your loan balance is probably much lower than someone who went to medical school. Because if you go to medical school, that means you're probably not actually working and earning a big salary, yes, but you're not earning that salary until 28 at the earliest, 32 if you did something special. And so that's a full 10 years that person has not been participating in retirement savings. So you've got that time power of money on your side. And as a teacher, no one expects you to drive a luxury car. No one expects you to have a huge house. No one expects you to have 3 kids in private school. In fact, if you do, they'd be like, wait, Why do you drive a fancy car, have a big house, and have three kids in private school, right? But if you are a physician, those lifestyle expectations are there. So you started with a lot more debt. You have high expenses because you have to pay your liability insurance, your malpractice insurance, and then there's all those lifestyle pressures. And as a teacher, if you go thrift shopping every weekend, no one bats an eye. If you drive a used car for 20 years, no one bats an eye. So it is, statistically speaking, way easier to be a millionaire as a teacher than it is as a physician in this country. And so what if we leaned into that? That, hey, I'm potentially $1 million teacher just because I've been putting in retirement since I was 22.
I love that. I've never heard that statistic or thought about that. That is brilliant. I also just love that, like, your encouragement for introspection around like the how have we come to money in a partnership, in like, and now I'm a teaching about it. Like, there are so many things that we hold on to that, like, not everybody's excavating in therapy or something, like we have to actually
Right.
like dig in and like think about it. Oh my gosh. Wow, you have given me so much to think about. I'm realizing we are almost out of time, so I'll
Oh
move
my gosh.
last few questions, but I'm curious, what is like one thing that an audience member can do when they end the episode? It's like, I want to just put some little nugget of this conversation into practice today or tomorrow.
The very first thing I would suggest is get a piece of paper, and I love blank pieces of paper for this. Colorful if you have it. So if you're a teacher listening, go grab a yellow or a bright orange from the copy room. I won't tell on you because that something about the bright color actually sparks some creativity. And I want you to write one question. What are the rules I have about money? And then write down all the rules you have about money. I cannot spend this. I'm supposed to save this. And rules can be good, bad, or neutral. But just write down all the rules that you have in your brain about money, whether you follow them or not. We're just writing all the rules that someone has ever told you about money. And then I want you to go through and ask, does this rule make sense for my life today? Because one of the things that happens with how we learn about money is we learn from the grown-ups around us when we're growing up or coming of age, right? And their context may have been completely different. So the rules they gave us made total sense for their life, for their situation, for their generation, for their income, for their whatever, right? But might not make sense for us in our life right now. And so just see if there is a rule that you've been carrying around and maybe even feeling bad that you haven't been able to follow, but doesn't make any sense for you. Like if my rent is $1,500 a month, and if I wanted to go live the American dream and buy a house, but my mortgage would be $2,200 a month, then it actually does not make sense for me to be a homeowner. And so every time my parents ask me why I haven't bought a house yet, I should tell them, well, mom, dad, it's because my rent is 1,500 and my mortgage would be 2,200. It doesn't make math sense, and I can do math. And that'll shut down the conversation at least that time.
Oh, that's really good. Okay, thank you for that. Next question, what have you been learning about lately? It could relate to our conversation or it could be totally not related.
So I've been learning about how to be an online influencer or content creator, or depending on who the teacher is, they use different words, because I'm realizing that that's where a lot of people are getting information. And so if I've got good information, I need to be there to kind of like soften up all the not so great information that's out there. Because maybe people will pick up my book, but they're probably more likely to find me on TikTok. So let me make sure I'm over there.
Yes. Okay. So now that's a great segue. I want to just give space to talk about your book and also like where people can find it and you online.
Oh, thank you so much. So we have a few books. So we have How to Afford Everything, and that's the book for grown-ups. So this one is best for someone who's earning money, so like 16 and up. Now, a 16-year-old's probably not going to write it. Most of my readers are like 25 and up. And then I've got How to Afford College because many of us, depending on how we grew up, education can be absolutely a pathway to a different life trajectory, right? A different type of career, a different type of environment, a different city and state. And so if I don't understand the financials of getting to and through college, I might end that college with more debt than I needed to have just because I didn't know any better. I didn't know any different. So that's what How to Afford College about. And then the book that I shared with you as the children's book, which is part of a bigger series that will be coming out in 2026, is called Madeline's Money Adventure. And this is our storybook version with that lesson for that early elementary. So the like 4 to 10-year-olds, right? Like the 10-year-old can read it to their little sibling, but will be bored by it, kind of thing. And this is introduces the basics of money and some of the language and how we can relate to it. And it's bilingual English Spanish because that was important to my family and my community. So we put both languages right on the same page. The easiest way to find me is go to darlabishop.com and all the links are there.
Oh my gosh, I'm actually going to go buy that children's book right now because I have not yet. And thank you for this conversation, Dr. Bishop. This was so fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I know we chatted a long time, so sorry, listeners, this was a long one.
It was an excellent long one. If you're looking for support to help you talk to your child about history, current events, or other high emotion topics, we've got you. Families are now welcome to join EduBoost. Here's how it works. Your kid brings up a topic and you're not sure what to say next, or something happens in the world or in your kid's life and you want to talk to your kid about it, but you're unsure how to bring it up. Immediately, you send us a message on Slack telling us what's going on via text or audio message. Slack can be used on your phone as well as your computer, so you can totally message us from the grocery store checkout line or at 2 a.m. when the question's literally keeping you awake at night. You get a personalized response and any relevant resources within 24 hours from me or my awesome colleague, Cara Prenikoff. Visit lindsaybethlyons.com/families for more information on family coaching.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We'll see you on the next episode.